Hey folks, it's Patriot Nurse. Join me today. We're going to discuss practical tips on keeping yourself and your family healthy during the spread of the coronavirus. So I and many other healthcare peeps have underestimated the spread of this thing and the way in which it's manifested, but also the data that we're getting from our respective healthcare organizations is, how shall I say, not compatible with the graphs and also the trends. And so rather than delve into more paranoia and fear factor, I want to just go over practical steps here and also talk about supporting the immune system in general when it comes to dealing with infectious disease during cough, cold, and flu season, and I guess now coronavirus season. So there are a few things I want to cover with you guys, and I have 6 practical tips here. The first is to be diligent with your hygiene. The second is to eliminate inflammatory foods. The third is to embrace supportive herbal adjuncts. The fourth is to be diligent with the cleanliness of your homes. And the fifth is to avoid food sharing. The fifth is to be wise, but also showing mercy. So being diligent with the cough hygiene. I don't know what it is, but it seems that some people either are not with it enough to understand that you're not supposed to just cough out into the air, just a general ignorance or naivete, or there's a general I don't care and screw the rest of the world. And I think that needs to be addressed. We need to be diligent with our cough hygiene. This would be a fact regardless of whether or not the coronavirus will be spreading, because it's cough, cold, and flu season, and it's just frankly inconsiderate for people to cough into the air, and especially in close proximity to other people, without consideration for covering their cough. The older generation, I think, and also countries where there hasn't been a lot of awareness as far as how to cough properly, there is a proper way to cough, and this is not it. Is not it. This is the right way to do this, or some sort of barrier in between your skin and especially high traffic areas like your hands and the droplets and the spit, basically the little tiny pieces of spit that come out of your mouth when you cough. The elbow cough is a good way to do this, and we need to be encouraging people to do this. And I see, like, just walking around, I see people coughing on their hands or coughing into the air and like coughing onto their hands and then touching high traffic areas like flat surfaces, tabletops, handles of like railing, handles of seats, like for instance in planes or buses or public transportation places. That needs to stop. So let us be diligent about this. And frankly, this also needs to be a priority for parents with small children, because you don't get a pass if your kid is the one who's hacking and coughing and you're not making any sort of attempt. I recognize that we have, people who are generally trying to do their best as parents, and we need to have grace and mercy for people. But I know that your kid may be cute, but your kid can still be a vector for disease, and not just the coronavirus. I'm talking cough, cold, flu, cytomegalovirus, like every infectious disease that we know to humanity disproportionately can be spread by young children because their immune systems are acquiring these and being exposed to these viruses, bacteria, etc. So if you are a parent of small children, it needs to be a priority for you to keep your children coughing appropriately, and also to practice frequent hand washing for your children as well. I'm not trying to be harsh unnecessarily or unfeeling, but this does need to be a priority. If you are a person involved in the care of small children, like for instance a church nursery or a preschool or a daycare of some point, especially if you run a preschool or a daycare out of your home, you need to be very diligent about keeping these children aware of cough hygiene as well. Second is to eliminate inflammatory foods from our diet. Now, in the Western diet, we have a whole bunch of these, like dairy, sugar, refined grains, all of these inflammatory foods, and let's define them here. Basically, inflammatory foods, a good general way for you to give a litmus test on this is, has this food gone through several permutations of refining before it gets to me in my kitchen? So for instance, white sugar, heavily processed snack foods, like I'm thinking of, for instance, like the crackers and the snack packages and, the junk food, basically the middle aisles of the grocery store. These foods are stripped of their vital nutrients. They've gone through various different processes in order to extend their shelf lives, which has an inverse corollary to their overall nutritional value. They're just not good for your health, okay? And we're also learning as well that these different inflammatory foods like sugar and processed dairy and definitely processed grain and the stuff that comes out of vending machines, these foods destroy the microbiomes of your intestinal tract and your digestive tract. And the more that we learn about the bacterial colonies and the balance of bacteria in your intestines, there seems to be a very direct corollary between gut health and overall immune system function. And so it's more than just, hey, don't eat bad food. Duh, we all know this. And I know we all have our weak moments here, yours truly included, but we need to be diligent about limiting our exposure, not only to nasty places and sick people, but also limiting our exposure to inflammatory foods so that way we stay healthy. The third point here is to embrace supportive herbal adjuncts. There are so many ways that I could go with this. I think many people know about the importance of, for instance, elderberry and seasonal immune support. And I'll put a couple links in the description box below to some elderberry products that have worked really well for me, and perhaps they'll be a good fit for you and your overall spectrum of health. But our bodies are created, right, to be able to withstand the onslaught of new viruses and new bacteria. Like people need to, I think, have a little bit of confidence in the programming that we have innate to being human beings. I believe that we were fearfully and wonderfully made. And our bodies are designed to be able, when exposed to a new type of virus or a virus that we don't have any familiarity with, our bodies are able to, they have a system for this, right? And I could go all into the pathophysiology, but I'm not going to, because there are plenty of people who do it better than me. But basically, with elderberry, and I'm also thinking of, for instance, mullein, which is a great herbal adjunct and a great support for the respiratory system in general, we need to look at our body systems, especially the systems that are a little weaker. For instance, if you have people in your family who you know have a weakness in a particular area, then we need to be looking to augment our overall health plan with herbs that are known to support those systems. And so I'm going to be planning on doing a little series here in the upcoming weeks, Lord willing, on herbs and specifically herbs that will help support your body in the times coming. Number 4, be diligent with cleaning your homes. Filth breeds filth. And I know that I would love to be able to do a better job at keeping my space clean. I think all of us would like to be, little Martha Stewarts, not in the prison sense, but in the nice, clean home sphere. You've got to be clean with your environment. Like if there's food left out for days and days, like scraps and crumbs and filth, and your kids are sick and snotty and touching door handles and the refrigerator door handle. If you have people in your space who are sick, you have got to be on the ball with keeping your space clean. We should be living in clean spaces in general, but really we need to prioritize this, especially during the season of cough, cold, flu. And ways that you can disinfect your home, simple things that you already have. Vinegar is, it's a part acid solution. You can make one like that. Bleach solution, bleach mixture, like a Clorox spray, that's another one. But you don't have to have the Mac Daddy for everything. We just need to be definitely keeping our spaces cleansed regularly. So find a solution that'll work for you as far as what you're comfortable with disinfecting your home. Okay, number 5. This is a huge, huge issue, especially with larger families. Do not share food or drinks between people. And in certain parts of the world, it's not considered a faux pas or a no-no for you to take your fork and to scoop food off of somebody else's plate. Or here's my favorite one, sharing ice cream cones between people. Yuck! There's saliva on there, like you're swapping germs. So without being ultra paranoid here, we really need to limit the exposure of human body fluids between people. So don't be sharing drinks between people, and don't be sharing food between people. And the practice of, and I've mentioned this before, of eating, the entire family eating from a shared place and everybody dipping their forks or chopsticks or whatever it is into the same central pot, that's got to stop right now. As a matter of fact, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and since then they traced back a coronavirus a transmission specifically to a shared hot pot, which is an Asian method of cooking and eating where everybody, again, eats from the same central location. And I talked about this. So we need to stop that right now, and we need to practice appropriate food sanitation measures. The 6th and the final one, without going hardcore special snowflake on this, we need to have mercy and practice mercy for people, not being stupid or being irresponsible. Be wise, of course, but the way that some victims of this virus are being portrayed in the media is just absolutely abominable and reprehensible. For the most part, people who are sick, especially people who really genuinely tried not to get sick and who didn't, mess up, who did try and be well and did try and be healthy, people who have become infected are not child molesters, God forbid, okay? We don't know in many cases why many of these people have been infected. It's not as if they particularly did anything wrong. A lot of the people who have been, secondary and tertiary infected cases of the coronavirus, they didn't do anything wrong. And so we need to be cautious about this, and we need to be, just wise and extend mercy to people. This phenomenon of eschewing and ostracizing people because they appear Asian. This is nothing new. Okay, in times of pandemic and times of infections, especially new infections spreading, there tends to be a reassertion of tribal boundaries and tribal differences in between people. For instance, when syphilis came to the old world from the new world in the late 1400s, really like 1490s forward, it was called the French disease by the English, and the French called it the English disease because it was like the other people spread it. Clearly we have a locus point here where the coronavirus specifically started in China and Wuhan. But, when you look around at the way that people who are not Chinese, are being looked upon unfavorably, unkindly, and being treated cruelly, to be honest, it's a cause for us to take pause here. And just recently, over the past few weeks, I've been involved with an international prayer initiative, specifically praying, for China and for the victims of this virus. Not for China, the communist government, to prosper, God forbid, but for the people, especially the believers in China, to be strengthened in this, because there's an opportunity for people to come together and to minister to each other. I'll just be real direct with it. And so, I think it's an opportunity for us, people who are of faith all around the world, to be able to band together for a moment here and to pray for wisdom, and to pray also for protection, right? And we have an opportunity here, and this is, again, something I want to emphasize. We have an opportunity to extend grace and mercy to people, okay? And to really just take a step back and to reevaluate our own lives and the way that we've been living, because a lot of people, and I've been really pleading with people for years on this, a lot of people, and especially in the West, have been eating and living horribly for decades. And one of the points that I've made, I think I made it in a video several years ago, was listen, if you invest in your body and you invest in your health now, you got to look at it like building a very, very strong and quality house to weather the storms that could be coming. And it's hard. It's hard to make good decisions sometimes, because food is a very emotional thing and people want to eat poorly because it satisfies a part of them. But you can't do that for years and years. It will come back to bite you. Smoking excessively, especially drinking excessively, all of these things have very clear impacts on people's health and set them up for failure later on, and especially challenging their immune system. So these are the things I wanted to talk about with y'all at this time with the coronavirus, and also with the cough, cold, and flu season going around, things that we can practically do. The theoreticizing and the theories as to where this thing came from, and did it really come from where they say it did, and is it really at this point the 70,000 that they say it did, or is it, all of that is not really relevant to my everyday life. I care about this, but from a practicality standpoint, worrying about is it a bioweapon, that's not going to help you. That's not going to help you at all. Like, we need to focus on practicalities, and the practicalities are what I mentioned. Be diligent with your cough hygiene, especially with your kids. Eliminate inflammatory foods. Embrace supportive herbal adjuncts. Be diligent with cleaning of your homes. Do not share food or drinks, and be wise, but show mercy. So I hope it was helpful for y'all today. If you did enjoy the video, I hope you'll subscribe to me here on YouTube. You can also support me on Patreon and Subscribestar, as well as cryptocurrency, and I have links to that in the description box below, as well as some of the herbal adjunct therapies for the support of the immune system and wellness as a whole for people. I'll also put a link in the description box below to a book that I think is very, very helpful. It's The School of Natural Healing by Dr. Christopher. I've advocated this for years as I've been teaching in my classes for medical prep when you're trying to embrace a holistic preparedness mentality and a world outlook, you've got to incorporate these older remedies, because they come from a time when, especially when you're looking at the Middle Ages, people were being exposed to a whole bunch of different stuff, and they didn't really have the ability to do some of the things, the organized health interventions that we have now. Herbals are a good way to go, and I think that they support people from a fundamental standpoint because they support nutrition. And Dr. Christopher's book goes into that. So this video is getting a little bit long, but I wanted to get you guys some quality information out there. And like I said, I should be uploading some videos in the weeks to come regarding specific herbs and how to incorporate them into your regimes. Hope it was helpful for y'all. Stay safe, stay healthy. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.